Discovering who you are today is the first step to being who you will be tomorrow. Join Deborah Powell and Barry O'Donnell on a step-by-step journey into Finding Your Heart Light, a podcast series of self-exploration and discovery. Are you ready to become the best version of you?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of our Finding Your Heart Light podcast series. Once again, being brought to you by me, Barry, located in Alberta, Canada, and my partner in crime, Deb, down in Australia. Now, we're carrying on in your journey. Today, we're going to be talking about meanings and stories. And before we even start this, I'm going to let Deb say a few words, and then we're going to jump into today. Let's go.
Thanks so much, Barry, and welcome everyone. I'm Deb and from Australia, and really looking forward to today's episode on meanings and stories. You know, we've grown up listening to stories all our lives from when we were first born, and our parents used to read us, or our caregivers would read stories to us. So our lives continually have been made up of stories. The memories are stories. We communicate through stories, new ones and the ones that we retell. Our stories find us through our experiences, some good and some bad. But what meaning do we put to them? And how do we explain or interpret these stories? And what effect do they have on our lives and those around us? Because they can affect those around us depending on how we interpret them. So I'm really looking forward to jumping into today's episode with Barry and really exploring what stories and the meanings we give them can mean to you. Thanks, Barry.
Oh, thanks, Deb. Great lead in, great segue, great sharing. Yeah. Meanings and stories. Why is this the 9th step in your journey to finding your heart light? Because it's at a different level. The steps you've been through to this point in time have prepared you to take this next step. Because in this next step, it's a matter of, we look at ourselves. We look at the stories we've been telling ourselves, the excuses we've been making for ourselves, and how we justified events in the past, and the meanings we applied to them. But you have to look at it through a different lens. You have to look at it through the lens of ownership. The lens of, if you look at things different, they change. And if something changes, it's no longer the same. Now, everything that happens to us, the only meaning it has is the meaning that we give it. We can all have the exact same experience, but we're going to put a different meaning to it. In part, because when we have that experience, we've all got other things going on in our mind. We're all looking at things through the experiences we've had in the past, through the way we look at things. So everything is going to have a different meaning for us. Now, once you apply that meaning, then you start telling yourself a story. And that story may change over time. It may stay the same. That's up to you. You're the one telling the story. But we can use those stories to propel us forward, or we can use them to hold us back. We can use them to inspire others. And we can just use them to explain why we tolerate things. You use the story for whatever you want to use it for. But when you look at stories you've been telling yourself, and think about it from the angle of, if I told myself a different story, would I have a different life? Would I feel different? It's a really good question. And it takes a matter of, how deep do you want to look at yourself? How prepared are you to actually own your decision and your choices to change your story? Because change your story, change the meaning, it will change the feeling associated with that, which changes life going forward. How's that resonate with you, Deb?
It's excellent, Barry, and some really valid points that you've been able to bring up, because the way that we each see an experience, an event, and things in our life, we do all interpret them the way that we see them. And so you may see something a little bit different to me. And I think, we've had an example at one time in the fact that you're way up there in the northern hemisphere and I'm way down here. We are going to see life a little bit differently. It's not going to be exactly the same. And so the way that we view the world around us can create very, very different experiences to many, many different people. And it's the way that we think of them, whether they're good or bad. And I think what can happen is the ones that we really can be very critical on, and this is where I love one of our other episodes, the one on self-talk. I'm not sure which one it was, but this is where I think our stories can really play on our minds when we don't talk to ourselves the right way and we start being very critical, and our stories become a very critical assumption of who we are. And that's where we can actually get very trapped. We can justify our reasons why we do a specific thing, and they can come across as excuses to others. So it's really important to ask yourself, are you trapped in stories that you've told yourself over and over, like a broken record that continues playing in your head and keeps you stuck there? So you need to really find out, are those stories serving you and helping you move forward? Is it keeping you feeling miserable? And is that the way that you want to feel? If it is, that's fine. It's your life, but it's really important to take responsibility sometimes of the way that we do think and try to view them, as Barry said, from a different perspective, and perhaps modify them or create new chapters, retell them, reword those stories, because sometimes the wording that we use in a specific story when we're talking about ourselves can really affect the way that it sounds to you. And this is where it's very important that you reword how you talk to yourself in the experiences that you've had in your life, to perhaps create a different feeling, a different emotion of that, and to be able to move forward. You don't want to remain trapped all your life in one place. And it's amazing how freeing it can be when we can simply change a few of the words in this and perhaps rewrite them. Look at it from a different perspective. Step into someone else's shoes and view it and see how it feels then. But great points, Barry. It's very important to be able to be curious and ask ourselves the question of, do the stories that you have, that you carry with you, do they serve you?
I love how you said that, Deb. A question that comes to my mind too, when you think about the stories you tell yourself, have you ever stopped? Actually, hit that pause button, play your story, and then ask yourself, is that true? Is that really the truth? I'd love you to try this and just say, well, maybe it's not entirely true. Okay, well, actually, maybe only parts of it are true. Okay, actually, I made most of it up. Who knows? It's their story. I don't know what you do with it. But try looking. Tell your story to somebody. I've had this experience recently when talking in group sessions, and people would say something, and once they said it out loud, they're going, okay, that sounds way different when I said it out loud than when I played it in my head. Yeah, it does. Now that you've said it, now what do you think? Pause, think. That is different. It does change things. Yeah, that's just one example. A couple of other things that come to mind, and it's ways that I thought even before I took any training for life coaching. It's the preordained outcome. Believe that you can, believe that you can't. Either way, you're right. Believe you're going to have a crap day, believe you're going to have an awesome day. Guess what? Either way, you're right. you're going to automatically look for things to prove that you're right, because you really don't want to be wrong. Your ego says, no, we got to be right here. Your ego doesn't care about being happy. It just wants to be right. So tell yourself a story. This is going to be a crap day. It's going to be a lousy day. I had this happen and this happened. So I know that things happen in threes. So I'm just waiting for something else to happen now. And I'm going to be watching for that all day. Really good story. You wait all day long. You say, you know what? I wasted that entire day looking for what else was going to go wrong. And I think the only thing that went wrong was I wasted the day looking for what was going to go wrong. Yep. You preordained the outcome. You decided what was going to happen that day before it even had a chance to do anything different. And you closed your mind to possibilities. That's that story. That's that meanings. That's that wanting to be right. Like just said, change your language, change your day. I like looking at people and talking to people and they say, oh, this happened, this is going to be a terrible day. Okay, how long did that happen? Or how long did that take? Less than a minute. So 1 minute out of a 24-hour day is going to ruin the other 23 hours and 59 minutes. Dial it in. It's just a minute. It passes. It's temporary. It passes. It goes. It doesn't mean anything except the meaning you gave it. So you have the opportunity to go back and give it a different meaning. Now, one of the beauties about this, when we talk about how you can redefine your world, how you can rewrite your story, how you can have those new chapters. If you go back and look at your life, pick an event. To me, it doesn't matter which event you pick, what age you were at, where you're at, how much experience you had. Pick any event that you had in your lifetime and revisit it in your mind. Think about what meaning you gave it, what story you've been telling yourself ever since that happened. Now look at it from a different angle. Look at it through the filters and eyes and experience that you have today and say, everyone says hindsight is 20/20. Probably isn't really, but I mean, it sounds nice. But look at that experience, that event, from a different angle as, okay, what can I learn? What really happened there? Could it have meant something else? And if you change that to mean something else, it's going to change your story. So now that your story changed, go through that story, play it like a movie in your mind, write it down, do whatever you need to, however you write your stories, go through that experience to rewrite the story about that one event. And once you have that story that makes sense, I want you to look at the events that you've been telling yourself stories about that happened after that point in time. Because I suspect every one of those stories that happened after the one where you change your story is going to look different now. You're going to be able to put a new meaning, a new story to all of those. And it'll be like a domino effect, which is a game changer. You have the ability. It's a choice. Because it only means what you decide it's going to mean. You get to pick. That's the beauty of this. What do you think, Deb?
I love that, Barry, and I love that actually. The one what you were talking about with the three things that happen. I think, wow, boy, oh boy, I do that. I still do that, like particularly when the second bad thing happens or whatever it is. It's just sometimes those days don't go the way that you want. Those days that you should have actually stayed in bed. You want to go back to bed and start again. But it's funny. I don't know whether we all do it or most of us do it, but I certainly do, like a couple of times, and it thinks, oh, okay, let's just get there's going to be a third there. And it's interesting. I know I tell myself that there's going to be a third, but it's going to be good when that third one comes and I can move on. But yeah, particularly all the other things you said, Barry, we certainly can review some of the beliefs or the stories that we've had in our life and how we've really implanted, because quite often, what I've noticed when I'm speaking to someone or I'm listening to someone who's retelling an event or a story. Well, it's their story. It's the way that we describe what happens in our life, our experiences. We do that through this act of storytelling, in a sense. And the thing is, like whether it's right or wrong, it is what they believe. And the more that that I've heard a similar story over and over again, it gets glorified. They don't even realize that they're glorifying it. I'll talk about it. It's really getting bigger and bigger because it's starting to consume the way that they feel. And this is what happens when we really get trapped in stories and when we get stuck in a story. They grow because we need more reiteration, I guess, in a sense, to know that what we believe is fact. We want to believe that this is the way that it happened, and it becomes harder and harder. And as I mentioned before, but does it serve you? And this is where it is really important to stop. Do you want to continue feeling like this the rest of your life? No. To use or justify the fact that, well, they have it and I don't, and I'm not worthy of having it or I'm not good enough. All of the things that we put into why we don't have things, why we aren't who we are or who we want to be. But we do have the choice. And as much as you think you may not have the choice, we all do. We're all given choice. It's just that sometimes others find it easier to choose. And for others, it's a little bit more difficult. And this is where it is really important to really review, as Barry said, have a look at those and see if you can look at it's something that's happened in a slightly different way. And how, if today it happened, how could you change that? What would you do differently today if it was the same? And use that to start rewriting and creating a new chapter and reviewing things a little bit different. Remember the things that you tell yourself, yes, they could have happened the way that you see it. It's not right. There is really no right or wrong. It is clearly the way that you view it. But you can also view it differently. You can also give it a different meaning. You can also leave that there, knowing that it created perhaps pain or hardship. But today is today, and today is the day that you can start rewriting a different path for yourself, even if it's just a very, very small thing, and see how that feeling can come through and that emotion of, I want to make something different today. I want to change something different today. And create that new chapter and begin. And look at the different perspective of perhaps what you were telling yourself. But I really loved, what you were saying, Barry. It is so true, how it can affect our lives. But more so, I think it's really important to know that it can affect the lives of those around us. It can affect our relationships. It can affect our friendships. And so it's really important to perhaps think of the way that we do talk to ourselves and the way that we've created some of the beliefs we have about ourselves. They may not be true at all, and others may not see you like that at all whatsoever. So start believing in yourself and start rewriting a new part of your chapter, the one where you want to move forward.
Completely agree with you. It's very well said. Love hearing the passion in your voice about this and the emotion behind it. When you talked about how a story can consume us, you're absolutely right. Some of us, some people, maybe you know somebody who fits in that category, that when you tell a story for so long, no matter how big it grows or how much it changes throughout the years, and you keep telling the story, you find yourself behaving as if you are the way that story is being told. Because now it's, okay, now I've told everybody this, so this is what I have to do. Because now I have to live up to this expectation. because now I have to live up to what people are believing about me or thinking about me. Well, the version you think they're thinking anyway. It's a story you're telling yourself. But then you take on a persona instead of being your authentic self. And the persona takes over until one day you just feel like you forget who you were. This is where we talk about meanings and stories as part of a way to reconnect with yourself, because think about that persona that you're putting out there to the world. Think about how you want people to perceive you and how you think they're perceiving you. And then think about who you really are. If it matches, great. But if it doesn't match, this is a really good time. Let's just grab that eraser and start over. Let's just go back to who we really are. No, you can't change the facts of the events that have happened to your past. Facts are fixed. You can't change facts. You can't change the fact that the event happened, but you can change the meaning you put to it. You can change the story you're telling yourself about it. Now, a really great thing that I heard fairly recently, believe it or not, this is from kids, but I love it. And they're talking about have main character energy. And by that, I mean, be the main character of your story and have the energy of that main character, because you're up front and center. You're the one who's getting all the attention. Think about virtually any movie out there that has heroes involved. Even if it doesn't have a hero, there's a main character, there's a lead in every movie out there. That lead character has the focus, has the attention, has the control, has the power, has everything going on, has the challenges, has to overcome challenges. That's why they're a hero, because they overcome adversity. They're resilient, but their energy keeps pushing them forward. When you become the main character in your own story and have that main character energy, it's all going forward. It fits right into that empowering category. So be the main character. Write your own story, because if you have control of that pen, you get to write whatever story you want. And you get to change it whenever you want, as often as you want. When you use your imagination. I don't think very many of us lay awake at night thinking, wow, I'd really love to be a victim here. I'd really like it if I didn't have to make any decisions. If I just got to say, yeah, okay, I'll just be a puppet. Tell me where to go, what to do, what to say, when to eat, how to dress. Yeah. What I'm going to do for a living. Yeah. Who's going to be around me? Who's not? Yeah, no, I don't want to make any decisions. I'll just go. I don't think anyone lays there and thinks about that's the kind of life that they want. And if you do, well, good for you. It's your life. It's your choice. I'd love it if you would share with us what keeps you awake at night. What do you think? What do you dream about for a life that you would want for yourself? Are you the heroine, the hero? Are you the main character? Are you in control of your life? Are you writing a chapter that legends are going to be made of? Do you want to? It's your story. It's your choice. You get to decide. You have all the power. It's only going to mean what you want it to mean. So if you want to write a chapter in life where you're the hero, because that means if you're the hero for one chapter, that'll give you enough that you can retire and you can live happily ever after. Good for you. It's whatever story you want. If you want to be that hero so that you can be a hero from now on, good for you. If you choose to be the person that supports the hero, supports others, because that's what charges you and fills your soul, fills your bucket, is being able to help others, then that's the life you get to live. You get to choose. There's no right or wrong here, as long as it makes you happy. It's your story. I'd love to hear it.
I'm sure there'll be quite a few stories out there, Barry. And I love the fact that it's almost, as you say, almost out of the mouths of babes, because it's incredible sometimes what we can actually learn from kids. And as Barry said, make yourself the main character in your story. Really honor yourself in that way. Now, it's not easy to start sometimes, and you may be sitting here and thinking, I like the sound of this. I really do. And I know that I do need a little bit of help, but how do I start? Like I wouldn't know how to rewrite my story. This has been my life. This is my life. But it's only your life until now. Because even to have that thought pattern or that awareness of, I don't want to keep doing what I've been doing. I'm stuck. I'm trapped. I feel all of this. It only means beginning with a small amount of change, a small amount of new sentence of what you want. Start thinking about what you want for your life. Believe in who you are, not who you were, but who you want to be, and not using the stories to hold you back. And it's your choice. So yeah, Barry, that's wonderful information to be able to know that we actually have the ability to do it. We created them. We can create new ones.
That we can. I've always said the scariest place there is our imagination. When you think about what something means, whether it's a superstition, whether it's the power of threes, whether it's our fear usually gets exponentially growing because we feed it with our imagination. We feed it with the stories and the meanings we give everything. And we just build ourselves up with so much anxiety and increase that fear level. You talk about being stuck. Well, fear is a pretty good way of holding yourself back. I'm scared to do anything. I'm not going anywhere. You can say, yeah, I'm safe in here. Think about how many stories you're telling yourself right now to give fear all the power to stop you from doing anything. If you're afraid to do something, fear is a really good reason or excuse, depending on what meaning you give it. Could be either. It's up to you. But fear will hold us and stop us from doing so much. I like to question, like, don't you think it's about time that you face that fear? You walk through it? Reality, for the most part, will prove to you that what you're afraid of, once you actually face it, you'll say, I was afraid of that. I stopped myself from having this experience for 20 years because I thought this was going to happen, and nothing. I didn't explode. The world didn't come to an end. I'm still here. Wow. That's very real. That happens so many times that you hear people telling a story and they say, I can't believe that I wouldn't do that. And for 20 years, I would not let myself do that until I realized, oh, I can do it. It's not as scary as I thought. I don't know why I told myself that. Good question. So when you're telling yourself stories about fear, when you realize you're stuck, you're not moving forward, look at the story you're telling yourself. Look at what it means. Put a new meaning to it. Tell a different story. Focus on yourself. Look for ways to apply new meanings to whatever happened in your past and new meanings to what happens to you going forward. If you want it to be different, look at it differently. When you look at it different, your story is going to change. It has to, because it's going to be really hard to write the same story with a different perspective.
Certainly, Barry, it's interesting. It made me think of have a little bit more calm and be patient. And the pause button, as Barry said, with the things that are happening in your life, wait, pause for them, see how they work out. and look at things from a variety of different ways. Is what's happening to you, or is it happening for you? And quite often it can be the awareness and questions that we ask ourselves. Or what can I learn from something? And if you're going to start doing things and changing something, remember, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean you're not going to try it again, because that's what I was always telling myself. I knew I couldn't do it. Ask yourself, what have you found out from this? And quite often it'll be not to do that again. Good. You've just learned something. Create that story, write that story, and say, you know what? I do know how to learn. I do know how to move forward. I can do this. And then start giving yourself credit. Please have a look at the journey of our Finding Your Heart Light series. And we walk you through these different steps so that when you come to today and you're listening to this podcast today, and I hope that you have been on this journey with us, you're going to fully understand the importance and really have this emotion inside you to go, I'm ready for this. I am ready to take a step forward into my new life, the new chapters, and I'm really loving being able to start a new story. And it's a really wonderful thing. We're proud of everyone that's really come on this journey with us and the actions you've been taking. And so I hope, if it is the beginning for you, make it a great one.
Very well said, Deb. Very well indeed. Yeah. As we're bringing this to a close, a thought comes to my mind that fits in with the stories we tell ourselves. When you think about it, especially going to your future, have you heard the saying, never meet your heroes? Like, we should never meet our heroes, because most people say, I idolized this person, but when I met them in person, I was so disappointed. It's the story that we told ourselves on what that person was going to be like, and then reality didn't meet our perception. That applies to a lot of things. People you think are going to be awesome because of what you see of them on television or different versions. From the way I look at life, especially now for what I've learned in the last few years and the things that I apply to my life, instead of having that preordained outcome, look at life with an open mind. I know how my day has been. I know what meanings I gave it. I know I can change the meanings. I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the day, but I'm open to possibilities. I'm open to new experiences, and I don't know how they're going to turn out, but I'm open to giving things a try. And instead of telling myself a story before it already happened, I'll tell the story of my experience after it happened. Because it's just walking in. I have no idea what life's going to bring me today. Look out, world, here I come. Let's go. Make your life what you want to make it. You have any problems, any trouble working at this or processing this or implementing it, just send us a message. Reach out. Deborah, I'll get in touch with you, and we'll help you walk through it. We'll help get you to where you want to be. We trust that we've given so much information here that there's a lot of this that you're going to do on your own and start applying. And if you reach out, great. We're happy to help. That's what we're here for. That's why we're here. And if you want to share your comments, tell us your stories. Tell us your old story, and tell us what your new story is going to be. Tell us that you've started a new chapter. Tell us you're writing a short novel. It could be a comic book. It doesn't matter. However you want that to look. It's your story. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear the story of the journey that you're having right now and what you're going to do with these new skills and new things that you're learning. And we'd love to know if we're making a difference in your life. Because we're only sharing information. You're doing all the work. So I want everyone to give themselves credit for doing the work, for applying things, for creating the life that they want. We're proud of you. You're rock stars. We're thankful you're on this journey with us. And we're really looking forward to you being with us again next week as we carry on in this podcast series. So I will bid you a farewell and leave it to Deb to sign us off.
Thanks so much, Barry. And thank you so much, everyone. Barry has certainly summed it up beautifully. We are incredibly proud of you. And I hope you're proud of yourself as well, because it's so vitally important. Give yourself that credit. You're working towards something beautiful and new in finding your heart light and being your authentic and best version of yourself. And we are absolutely honored that we can be along on this journey with you. So we look forward to joining with you next week on our next episode, which will be episode 10 in our series. It's been a pleasure having you join us today. Barry, it's been absolutely wonderful having you as my co-host and this particularly this discussion today. I think it's such a valuable one and one that can really benefit all of us and something we need to review during our lives continually. And I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Barry. Thank you, everyone, again, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Deb.
Bye
everyone.
Bye.